Hello and welcome to Sensitive Changemakers, the podcast where we celebrate the power of sensitivity and introversion in leadership, entrepreneurship and beyond. I'm Kate Carter, your host, a certified professional coach, HSP and introvert who's passionate about helping you embrace your unique gifts and lead with authenticity. Let's dive in. How are you all? Happy Monday. I hope as always, I hope you are well and you're having a good one. I am going to dig in quite quickly to this one. If you've got any questions, please do let me know. Today we are talking about the power of patience and the surprising reason that you're closer to success than you think. This is in my head and has been on my mind for a while because I know how frustrating it can feel when you feel like you're doing all the things and you're not seeing the results on the other side. And I know as introverts and highly sensitives, and just as newbies in a new space, if we are new, or even if we've been doing this for a few years, but just haven't quite figured out what our way is yet, we can get easily influenced by the people around us. There's a lot of noise and it feels like everybody else has got the key, like the secret, and we haven't, and it can feel really demoralizing and frustrating. And then that kind of mentality really does lead to finding or trying different ways that can often take us away from our goal rather than towards our goal. And I really want to talk to this. So I'm so glad you're here with me. And we're going to really look into how to move away from chasing instant results and instead build a rhythm of growth that's sustainable, fulfilling, and aligned with who you are. So first of all, let's look at the key bits of information. So why are instant results so tempting and draining? We are constantly shown reels, content, which is talking to X amount of money in so many days or so many weeks. And I know that I'm kind of exaggerating the point, but you know the post that I'm talking about. Now, there is nothing wrong, I don't feel anyway, about talking about money. I think talking about money normalizes it. I think there's a lot of shame and guilt and hidden stories around money. And I think it's really important to talk to those things. But I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the viral posts, the posts that incite a feeling of doubt and insecurity within you because you're thinking that all of these people are achieving X amount of money in such a short amount of time. And for highly sensitive and introverts, that can really trigger that comparison, that self-doubt, or a sense of urgency that doesn't match our natural pace. And this doesn't mean we're lazy. It doesn't mean that we can't work and that we don't work hard. I think those are really big misconceptions. I do think that we have to honour our energy and honour our pace. And actually by doing that, by taking our time, by leaning into that, we actually find ourselves going further and jumping ahead and making those bold decisions, or those results suddenly start coming in that we didn't even realize were there just waiting for us. The problem with chasing instant results and thinking that you have to have these instant results is that it can often lead to overwhelm of information, burnout, inconsistency because we are constantly trying new things, or losing that connection with why we started our business in the first place. And I really want to kind of shift this from thinking of a quick fix, of something that is instant, to this steady momentum. Because what I've seen to be true over the time that I've been working with clients is that small steps really do lead to big goals. That's what my podcast was originally called, because I believe in small steps so much. But we often, if we know that we are just putting that one foot in front of the other, we're taking that small action every single day, we do end up with the success that we want to. And one of the reasons we do that is because we're not constantly changing our mind. And there is no shame in this whatsoever, no judgment, because I've done it myself. I know how it feels. And I really want to shine a light on why I think this happens, especially if I put my own kind of experience in here, just to give you some kind of concrete evidence. I think that we often get deterred from the path that we're on. One, because we're looking at these instant results. We're thinking that we're somehow doing something wrong because everybody else seems to be doing it really quickly. And I think that's a misconception. I think it's just wonderful marketing. I don't think it's necessarily true for a lot of people, although I think it holds true that it does happen for some people. But I think for the majority of people, it's not the path that most people take. But when we are constantly chasing instant results and a quick result, we end up jumping from thing to thing. We end up having shiny object syndrome. We end up changing our niche. We end up shifting things. And there's, like I said, no blame, because I've done it myself and know how it feels. And I think that that's one kind of branch that often happens. I think the other branch that often happens is because we never gave ourselves time and space and clarity of what we actually wanted in the first place. And I think that this comes back to the really beautiful coaching work, what I consider to be true coaching, of figuring out what your values are, figuring out what your priorities are, and not just as a nice to have, not just, oh, isn't that nice, that's my value, or isn't that nice, that's my priority, but no, why is that value so important to you? What is the behavior that is going to be driven by that? What's the action that's going to be driven by that? What do you want that to physically look like in your life and your business? So it's not just a nice to have value. It's there to guide you, to bring you back to your pathway whenever you are influence, or whenever you have all of these different ideas coming at you from different people online. Social media is very powerful. Marketing is very powerful. We've got lots of different people telling us lots of different things. How do we stay true to what is right for us? And it is that I always think, yes, really like looking at patience, being prepared for it to take time. And so many successful people I know are, what's the way that I want to say this? It's not like they're happy that it's going to take lots of time, but they're prepared for it to take time. And that preparedness, that idea that I'm in it for the long haul, means that they have got blinkers on, in a positive way in this light. They've got blinkers on. They know what is in front of them. They are not get distracted by things that are on the side. So I think this idea of patience, I think, is a really powerful one. I think if that feels like that's only part of the story for me, then maybe it's a case of, have you given yourself the time, the energy, the space to actually look at your values and work out what behaviors and what actions are going to be driven by those values, by those priorities, so that you're actually not only sticking in your own lane with your blinkers on, but you're actually doing this based on something that you really, really want and that you really, really believe in. It isn't just, well, I'm doing this because I need the money. It's because there's a deeper reason. Money is important. I'm not going to downplay that. We all need to have, income coming in. We need to know how we're paying for things. Money is just part of our reality. But it doesn't mean that should be the sole reason we're doing something. If money is the sole reason for doing something, we're going to, in my opinion, we are not going to last, because entrepreneurship is difficult. Running a business is tough. These things. And if we don't have a drive that is deeper than just having an income, we are going to want to go, forget it, I'm going to go and do something else. Okay, so I think those things are really important, and I hope that has landed, and I hope that makes sense. So what can you do about this? So I wanted, as always, to give you something actionable, something you can take away, something to think about. So step one, I love my steps. So step one is, I want you to replace the idea of result goals with rhythm goals. So instead of asking, how can I get clients this week? Okay, now that's not necessarily a bad question. What I would say is, a question like, how can I get clients this week, is so open-ended that if our mindset is already stuck on, I'm not making this work, everybody else seems to be doing it so much quicker than me, I don't think I can do this. If that's the mentality you've got when you're asking yourself, how can I get clients this week? Your brain is going to provide evidence for why you can't get clients this week. It's not going to be super supportive and give you all the ways that you can. So just be aware of that. And this is why asking your brain the right questions can be super powerful. One of the questions that you can ask instead, and I spoke about this last week, is what is already working and how can I go deeper into that? I think that's a wonderful strategy question that you can really use to open up your business into kind of a different way of looking at a different perspective, a more neutral perspective, and really thinking about how you can leverage what's already working and make it work even better. One of the other questions I want you to think about here is, what consistent rhythm can I commit to that builds trust over time? This one is, it is a strategy question, but it's also based on your energy. It's almost like I was talking about earlier with your values and your priorities. It's a question where you have to know your values and your priorities in order to answer this question and in order for it to influence your behavior and your actions. And that is where I personally think value work is so important, because it's not just a nice to have, it's actually going to drive your behaviors and your actions. So what consistent rhythm can I commit to that builds trust over time? Now, the rhythm that I'm talking about is your strategy. And in this case, it's more about your reach and it's more about your connection. If we think about what we spoke about last week, so we've got that content, connection, we've got communication and conversion. We really want to be focusing on the first two. So that content, that reach, how are we going to reach people, and that connection, how are we going to connect with people, how are we going to build that trust over time? Those two areas that this question really supports you with in terms of strategy. So what are my actions, what are my behaviors around those two areas? How is that going to really support my growth and my sustainability long term? How is that going to help? How am I going to commit to that in a way that actually honors my energy levels and honors who I am as a person? So for example, if we give you some even further evidence here, posting one piece of meaningful content that really speaks to your ideal client's struggles and what they're feeling right now, rather than trying to write 5 pieces of content. Another way is reaching out to one person for a genuine connection and not necessarily just a sale. And this reframe helps you to stay focused on what you can control rather than the outcome. So for me, when I talk a lot to clients, I'll say, what's a result win? What's a process win? So a result win, you're not always fully in control of. Yes, you're in control of what goes up to that point, but the actual result itself is kind of out of your hands. What you are in control of is the processes that lead up to that result win. That is completely within your control. So what does that look like to you? So that's step 1. Step 2, and you know that I'm a great lover of this. I'm a great lover of showing our brain different ways. I'm a big believer in asking our brain different questions that are going to be more supportive rather than more kind of negative and beating ourselves up. So I've got a proof of progress, and I normally call this an evidence journal as well. So at the end of each week, you're going to write down 3 ways that you've made progress, even if they're really, really tiny. So some examples might be a conversation that you've had that felt really aligned, a post that someone really resonated with, a new idea that felt like, yes, this is actually in alignment with who I am and where I want to be heading. And I'm not listening. I've got my blinkers on and I'm not listening to what other people are saying is right. This is actually what's right for me. So for sensitive and introverted entrepreneurs, I really find that having this evidence of progress keeps your nervous system regulated, because it's keeping you neutral. It's keeping you thinking one step in front of another. What am I doing here to put one step in front of another? How am I keeping my blinkers on and focusing forward rather than getting overstimulated and overwhelmed by all of the noise? It really does support and reinforce that growth is happening, even when results aren't instant, and we're prepared to stay in it for the long term because we know that this is how it's going to support it, that we know that this is how we're going to move forward. So I hope that makes sense so far. Building a business as a highly sensitive, as an introvert, isn't about hustling harder. It is absolutely about honouring our pace, our process, and our presence. So when you stop chasing those instant results, you start focusing on steady alignment, you create that space for the kind of success that actually feels good when it arrives. So this week, I want you to try one of those steps. I want you to set a rhythm goal that feels sustainable for you. So thinking about that reach, thinking about your connection with people, and I want you to start your proof of progress, that evidence book of where you're actually going to write down your process pieces of evidence, you'll process wins so that you can see how your confidence grows, and you're putting one step in front of another. You're putting your blinkers on, you're staying in your lane because you know that this is what is right for you. Okay, you do not need to rush to prove you're successful. And I think this is often understated in successful people. Those people that you look up to, that you really admire, are people 99.9% of the time who have been prepared to stick in it for the long term because they know that this is what's right for them. So I hope this has been really supportive. Patience is a virtue. This is really important work, I feel, to keep us from being distracted by things out there, by other people, to keep us in our own lane. So I would love to know what comes up for you. Have a good one and I'll see you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If you have any takeaways or any questions, please do reach out to me either through Instagram, LinkedIn or Facebook at Kate Carter Coaching, or you can email me at kate@katecarter.co.uk. I always love to hear your feedback and the things that you have taken from the podcast. If you know of any other highly sensitive people, then please do share this so that I can reach more and support more highly sensitive people to embrace their strengths and gifts. As a thank you, I will pick a winner every month for a free 50-minute coaching session with me. Thank you so much.